Hi, I'm Paris, and I think it may be about time to harvest my sweet potatoes. I planted mostly purple sweet potatoes just over 4 months ago, so this is really right at the limit. They should definitely be ready to harvest, but the plants still are green and look great. This is my summer crop. I planted them back in March. I think I'm going to try to plant another crop and get in some more this year because we have a long growing season here in Central Texas, but they would be, from what I've read, yellow and dying if they were done and it was time to harvest them, but that's when you harvest in the fall. I'm afraid they just keep growing new leaves all year if I leave them. So to start with, I'm going to pull out one of the fabric pots, see if I can find one that has a hatch in it for looking underneath and seeing if the potatoes are ready. The thing is that they're all lined up along this wire fence and the vines have all grown into it, so I'm going to have to tear them off just to pull that pot out to get a look. Well, this one's kind of disappointing actually. This is not one of the purple sweet potato planters. It's Jewel, so it's one of your standard orange sweet potatoes that you find at the supermarket. That's really all that was growing out of it. I think it got overwhelmed by the vines from the purple sweet potatoes. And this isn't one of the planters that has the hatch, so I'm just going to dump it upside down on the ground, see what's under the roots. Okay, it's keeping its shape real well. Guess I'll throw the soil back into here to reuse and see if I can find some potatoes. It's really dry along the outside edge, which is the nice feature of the fabric pots. That keeps the roots from doing that spiral where they get root bound like that. They don't like having that much oxygen, so they automatically don't grow out all along the edge. As I'm working my way through it, I am finding more roots now. Oh! I'm thinking this qualifies as a tiny sweet potato. Ah, here's a much nicer one right here. It's still too small, but a great deal larger than the other one. There is one incredibly tiny potato. A couple more here. Well, that was rather disappointing. Really, the plant, for the length of the vine, only grew about this much in the way of roots. A few scragglers got longer, but pretty much this is all it ever turned into, and as a result, here's the harvest. Definitely disappointing. Let me grab another pot and see. It's all interwoven with all of the others. Oh, okay. I think this pot's a different story. Oh, lots more growth out of this fabric pot. Look at all the vines coming out of it. That's a huge amount of foliage. Now, were there any potatoes? I can see the roots coming through the bottom where it stayed on that moist soil underneath in the ground. It was trying to grow right through into it. Oh, I got some potatoes I can see already. Definitely have some potatoes, but these at least are on the pretty small side. Well, at least here's one. It's on the small side, but it's definitely big enough to bake up and to eat. Small ones. Now here's a nice one. That's new growth. So here's what my two starter potatoes produced in the way of greenery. A load. Here's what they produced in the way of potatoes I can eat. One almost medium, one towards the small side. These guys really too little to do anything with. So that was not a good transaction. I traded in two large, perfectly good sweet potato and turned them into this. The next pot is an Adirondack Blue. Not a sweet potato, but it's a potato that has the anthocyanins, so it's blue. Really unique. I think though the plants got overwhelmed by these purple sweet potato vines. Adirondack Blue got starved for sun by the other vines. I watered it just as much and it had the same nutrition, just didn't get the sunlight. Well, maybe it managed to produce something before the vines died. Soil is moister than the other pots. I'm guessing because the vines died, they weren't there to pull the water up out of it for the plant growth. Huh. Looks like two grapes. They're not connected on a vine or anything. You know, they're too firm to be grapes. These must be the progeny of the Adirondack Blue. A little small for eating, unless you like grape-sized potatoes. Oh ho! I found some more, and these aren't bad. This one's almost the size of the original potato that I planted. And another one. What's odd is I can't find the original Adirondack Blues that I put in the soil to start the plants growing. Unless maybe this was one of them. It had a little bit of a stem on this end, but it still looks to be in good shape for having sat outside in wet soil for 4 months. These smaller guys I definitely think were produced by the plants. So after seeing what poor results I was getting sweet potato growth wise, I just came back in the house. I talked to my brother later in the day and told him about the garden just was going crazy with the foliage, but wasn't producing potatoes. He said, well, your garden thinks it's the middle of summer, which of course it's early August. It still is the middle of summer. I was trying to plant them early so I could harvest them right around the end of July, early August, and get a second crop in. I should have gone by the book the first year though. So he said that the plants think it's the middle of summer. They're still in growth phase. They aren't worrying about producing potatoes yet. This is from his experience growing things. And that I need to let them use up the nitrogen in the soil and let the days get a little shorter, let it get a little cooler. They'll get the idea it's fall, and then all of that foliage will turn into lots of potatoes, he still believes. And to help ensure that would happen, he sent me these liquid fertilizers that he's used in growing things before. So I started with this one yesterday. I used the soaker hoses that I have laid out to distribute some of this. This has potassium, phosphate, and iron. So my brother told me, don't go digging up the garden now. You'll find very few potatoes. If that's all you're seeing in those canvas pots, the plants in the ground are going to be the same. You need to give it another month or so. The foliage will continue to grow till it senses fall is coming on, and then all the energy will go into producing sweet potatoes. Here's hoping. And I left my tiny collection of harvested potatoes out here on the porch to set because they need to be out in the heat for 10 days for the skin to toughen up. And right here in the middle is where I had my purple Stoke sweet potato. Squirrels decided they like them too. And my brother suggested I consider doing a hydroponic garden for my next crop because that's what he's familiar with. And hydroponics is a nice idea, but I don't know how I'm going to get this much growth inside the house. So that's my 4-month update. Rather disappointing, but I'm not giving up yet. So wish me good luck and lots of potatoes, and I'll see you on the next review.
There are so many choices and you don't want to stress. You want your health food at home, receiving only the best. That's what we're here for. We give honest reviews. parristx.